To know that your state government is fully committed to doing everything we can to keep your family safe. I just received a briefing from emergency management officials here in Tampa. Right now, the National Hurricane Center is reporting that Hurricane Irma remains a dangerous and life-threatening Category 4 storm with winds of 150 miles per hour. A storm surge warning is in effect for Sebastian Inlet southward around the peninsula to Venice and the Florida Keys. The storm surge watch is in effect for north of Sebastian Inlet to Ponce Inlet. The storm surge is forecast to be 3 to 12 feet. Think about that, 3 to 12 feet. Across this area, which is life-threatening. A hurricane warning is in effect for Jupiter Inlet southward around the Florida Peninsula to Bonita Beach, the Florida Keys, Lake Okeechobee, and Florida Bay. A hurricane watch is in effect for north of Jupiter Inlet to the Flagler-Volusia County line, and north of Bonita Beach to Anclote River. Rainfall is forecast to be 8 to 12 inches, with isolated areas receiving up to 20 inches of rain. Based on what we know now, the majority of Florida will have major hurricane impacts with deadly storm surge and life-threatening winds. We expect this along the entire East Coast and West Coast. The Florida Keys should be prepared to start feeling the effects of this storm tomorrow morning. If you're in the Panhandle, you will also experience severe weather. Please be prepared for this. Evacuations. I've ordered school buses to aid evacuations statewide. Multiple counties have accepted these buses, and I encourage any counties with a need for buses to evacuate residents request buses right now. Our traffic and roadways experts report that the Keys are heavily evacuated. All gas stations in the Keys are currently closed, but if you're still in the Keys, get out now. We will quickly run out of good weather to evacuate. If you need any help in the state to evacuate, 1-800-342-3557. But if you're in the Keys, leave now. Anywhere in the state, if you're told to evacuate, leave, get out quickly. I'm a dad and I'm a grandfather. I love my family. I can't imagine life without them. Do not put yourself or your family at risk. If you've been ordered to evacuate and are still home, please go to a shelter. I encourage everyone to check on your neighbors. If you know someone in your neighborhood who is not evacuating and should, please contact them. Take care of each other. Please check on your neighbors with special needs or the elderly. And if you can take people in, please do it. Today is the day to do the right thing for your family and get to safety. Today is the day the right thing for your family and every family in the state to make sure you have a plan and get to safety. This storm is wider than our entire state and is expected to cause major and life-threatening impacts from coast to coast. Remember, Hurricane Andrew is one of the worst storms in the history of the state. Irma is more devastating on its current path. Irma has already caused multiple fatalities in the Caribbean. This storm is powerful and deadly. We are being very aggressive in our preparation for this storm, and every Floridian should take this seriously and be aggressive to protect their family. Possessions can be replaced, your family cannot. I know it's hard to evacuate and it's very uncomfortable. I think about my mom and how hard it would have been for her to be completely broke with kids and have to evacuate. But you have to do it. You can't afford not to do it. Think about your family. You have to keep your family safe. To private business owners, please be compassionate with your employees as they prepare for this storm and evacuate. I was a business owner when Hurricane Andrew devastated the state 25 years ago. The single most important thing right now is the safety of your employees and their families. For the remainder of the state waiting on evacuation orders, listen to your local officials. They will tell you if and when your area needs to be evacuated. Listen to them. Follow the news. We can expect additional evacuations as this storm continues to come up through the state. I cannot stress this enough. Do not ignore any evacuation orders. All Floridians should be prepared to evacuate. Lake Okeechobee. Based on recent forecasts, the U.S. Army Corps has been reviewing how the federally operated dike will be impacted. I spoke to Colonel Jason Kirk with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers last night, and I met with the Corps today. They believe there will be additional impacts from excessive wind pushing some water over the dike. They have assured me that the structural integrity of the dike will not be compromised but they're worried about water flowing over the top. I ordered evacuations of the cities surrounding the southern half of Lake Okeechobee from Lake Port to Canal Point in Hendry, Palm Beach, and Glades counties. The decision was made due to our sole focus on life safety. Traffic. I know many of you are stuck in traffic, and I know you have to be frustrated. All I ask is to be patient. Evacuations are not convenient, but the goal is for them to be safe. I'm glad so many people are driving to safe places. We have increased the number of troopers on Florida highways to help move traffic and keep people moving, going down the road. We have 1,700 troopers working 12-hour shifts. These dedicated officers are 100% focused on safety and aren't taking a day off. Also, all administrative duties have been suspended at FHP. This means all sworn FHP officers are on roads helping families evacuate and bringing supplies to areas of need. We've also increased the number of road rangers who are patrolling Florida's roadways 24/7 to assist motorists. Around the state, we have hundreds of DOT workers monitoring traffic cameras 24/7 to ensure traffic flows continue and evacuations proceed without interruptions. All of this is to help everyone that's going to evacuate get safely to where they need to go. Contraflow. We still need southbound lanes to get needed gas and supplies down to shelters and families that need it in the southern parts of the state. Contraflow inhibits our ability to get emergency vehicles to people that need them. Right now, to ease congestion, we have activated the use of shoulders on I-75 on Wildwood to the Georgia line. But please drive very safely and listen to law enforcement. They're working to keep you and your family safe. Real-time traffic information and evacuation routes are available at fl511.com. We're seeing bottlenecks at major highway junctions, which brings up an important point. If you do not need to evacuate out of the state or hundreds of miles away to stay safe, there's a lot, you don't always have to do that. There is going to be shelters all around the state. So if you don't need to be on the road, get off and go to a shelter. We are coordinating with Google Emergency Response Team to prepare to close roads on Google Maps in real time in the event Hurricane Irma forces the closure of any roads. In my direction, all tolls on all the roads in the state have been waived. Visit Florida's Welcome Centers have transitioned to emergency information centers to help direct evacuees with the most up-to-date information. Visit Florida's Welcome Center staff and are all Red Cross certified and stand ready to assist as needed. If you are concerned that you don't have a way to evacuate due to traffic, please call the emergency hotline 1-800-342-3557. We will do everything possible to get you out. Fuel. One of our top priorities has been fuel availability. I was alerted yesterday by Vice President Pence that the federal government has waived additional rules and regulations to allow more fuel to get to Florida fast. I want to thank the EPA, I want to thank the President, the Vice President for all their efforts to help us get more fuel in the state. We know there are problems with supply at gas stations. State law enforcement are providing escort services to gas trucks to get them through traffic so they can get to these stations faster. These law enforcement escorts have continued throughout the night, and they'll go as long as possible. You've probably seen some of them around the state. For gas stations in evacuation zones, we need to stay open as long as possible so people can get fuel and get out. We will arrange police escorts for your employees so they can get out safely. So please stay open. If you're in an evacuation zone in your gas station, please stay open as long as you can. We all know how important fuel is. We're devoting every state resource, and the federal government is working to try to make sure we have all the fuel we can get here. 3 tanker trucks delivering fuel to Port Tampa Bay yesterday. We got 3 tanker trucks in, each delivering 1.2 million gallons of fuel. State law enforcement continues to escort fuel supply trucks from Port Tampa Bay, Jacksport, and Port Everglades directly to gas stations. As of 6 p.m. last night, 8.4 million gallons of fuel was shipped into Port Everglades, and more than 5 million gallons of fuel were shipped in Port Tampa Bay. We are aggressively working to move excess fuel stage in Niceville to communities throughout Central Florida. While we're making progress, unfortunately, you're still going to see lines, and unfortunately, you're going to still see outages. I can't imagine how frustrating you have to be. I can just tell you, none of us are going to stop working on it. However, if you're in an evacuation zone in South Florida, just remember, you need to leave now. Port Everglades will be closing tonight for safety, and gas will no longer be resupplied into much of South Florida until after the storm. If you're concerned you do not have enough fuel to evacuate, please call the State Emergency Hotline, 1-800-342-3557. But you have to call now. You cannot call in the middle of the storm. You have to call now so we can get you out. If you know you're going to a shelter in your county, you don't have to fill up your tank all the way. So be considerate of others, because others might have to be going further away. There's an app, Gas Buddy app, is a great resource to find opening stations with fuel. All ports still remain open and are operating to bring fuel and supplies in. Shelters. Last night I directed the closure of all schools in the state, K-12, state colleges and universities, and all state offices from their normal activities. And it's today through Monday. The goal is to ensure we have all the space available for sheltering and staging. Floridians have to have access to as many shelters as possible. We're still going to see more evacuations in the northern part of the state. Fortunately, over 17,000 people have signed up to volunteer. We need more volunteers. You can go to the Volunteer Florida website, volunteerflorida.org, to sign up. We can't thank the ones that have signed up enough, but we're going to need more. There's absolutely no reason for anyone not to evacuate if you're ordered to do so. Shelters are available around the state, and you should follow the directions of the local officials to go to the shelter that fits your needs. You can go to floridadisaster.org/shelter to find a shelter in your county or neighboring county. If you need a hotel, you can go to expedia.com/Florida. Expedia is trying to help us in real time on hotel occupancy. Airbnb has activated its disaster response program. If you're an evacuee in need of a place to stay, or you're an AirHub or Airbnb host looking to open a house for an evacuee, go to airbnb.com/disaster. The Florida Restaurant Lodging Association has encouraged all hotels to waive pet policies, offer shelter, and be compassionate with cancellations. National Guard. We've already activated 7,000 members, which is right now every available member of the National Guard we have has been activated. Law enforcement. Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission is preparing search and rescue teams for potential deployment and has more than 200 officers standing by for the first wave of response based on potential storm impacts. We've been reaching out to law enforcement across the state to make sure they have all the resources they need to keep people safe. Utility providers. They're actively pre-positioning resources throughout the state and in neighboring states. We all know how important both fuel is and how important power is going to be. We will aggressively work with the utilities to make sure if you lose power, to get your power back on as quickly as we can. I want to thank the governors of other states that have provided every time I've asked for something, they've provided it. I know the entire country is behind us. I know the president's behind us. And we have the best first responders in the country spread throughout the state and neighboring states ready to help. But we are running out of time. The storm is almost here. If you're in an evacuation zone, you need to go now. This is a catastrophic storm that this state has never seen before. We can rebuild your house, you can get your possessions again. We cannot rebuild your life, and we cannot rebuild your family. Protecting life is our absolute top priority. There will be no resource or expense spared to protect a family. Florida is tough, Florida is resilient, Florida is unbreakable. We all have to stay together and help each other. Florida is an amazing melting pot of loving people, and I'm proud to be governor of this great state. Este huracán es muy peligroso. Su vida es lo más importante. Cada familia debe de tener un plan. Por favor, salgan si están en zona de evacuación. Para más información, por favor llamen al 1-800-342-3557. Mi prioridad es que todos, familias, turistas,